Welcome to another episode of the Live Happy, Healthy, and Inspired podcast. The podcast all about learning how to live a happy, healthy, and inspired life. I'm your host, Brad, a once upon a time overweight, lethargic, low self-esteem couch potato that turned it all around. My mission now is to empower you, the listener, with the strategies, tips, and advice for what it takes so that you too can live happy, healthy, and inspired. In this episode, I sit down with Angilie Kapoor, a mindset architect and transformation strategist, to discuss the profound journey of overcoming low self-esteem and discovering your true, authentic self. Angilie shares her personal story of appearing to have it all: career success, leadership roles, and external accolades, while battling feelings of low self-worth on the inside. Key takeaways from today's episode include how to recognize and address the inner demons of low self-esteem that hold you back from your full potential, the actionable steps Angilie took to rebuild her mindset and align her life with her authentic self, and the same steps that you can take, and why self-worth is the foundation for creating a happy, healthy, and inspired life. Stay tuned until the end, where Angilie shares her most important piece of advice to help you take the first step towards transforming your own life. Welcome, everybody. Another exciting episode of the Live Happy, Healthy, and Inspired podcast. And today I am with Angilie. Angilie, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Brad. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, it's fun too because I was on your show a while back, and now we get a podcast swap. And I always like being the host actually, because then I don't have to do the talking. I can let the guest do all the talking. But we're going to dive into something today. I mentioned off camera. I was reading through some of your information on your website. Your journey is very similar to mine, and that on the outside, you looked like you had it all together: the job, the career, rising through the ranks, the promotions, the leadership, all of that stuff. But on the inside, you were struggling. Is that fair to say?
Yes, definitely. I was. Yeah.
Yeah. What were some of the things that you were struggling with?
Oh my gosh. I think I was struggling with every negative emotion and limiting belief that you can think of. I call it the Pandora's box of just
I
stuff
might
that
challenge
you
you
deal with.
on that, but yeah.
Yeah, but no, I mean, I was, struggling with not really having the confidence that I needed to, really feel comfortable in everything that I was doing. I had imposter syndrome. The inner critic, my inner critic in my head was really vicious, saying things to me. I was telling myself, the negative self-talk, things that weren't very kind. Like I was a loser, I was a failure. What was I doing here? You don't deserve to be here. Just nasty things like that we really don't pay attention to, but really do affect, our mindset and our self-esteem and our confidence. But yeah, I mean, on the outside, I looked like, a super successful person. I'd always get comments from people like, oh, I wish I want to be where you are one day. And, internally, I'm kind of like, no, you don't. Because I'm really struggling here, so on the outside, I wore a mask where I, really looked like I was really well put together and I was, doing things well, but on the inside, I was falling apart. When I went home at night, I cried every night, because did not feel in alignment with anything that I was doing. I felt horrible. I mean, looking back at it now in hindsight, I did spend a lot of years, in depression and having some serious anxiety issues. But yeah, that's something that, I went through. It's interesting to mention that you said that you went through the same thing. And I know I've talked to other people who have said that they have, been through that period in their life as well.
Yeah, I'm actually writing my next book on that now. But I want to obviously dive a lot more into this, but you just mentioned on the outside you appeared successful. So yeah, you were pretty high up the corporate ladder. Is that true?
Yeah, I was the second in command in my company. It was a medium-sized company. So I only had my executive director above me. And at the time I was managing 6 different departments. So yeah.
Yeah. So pretty high. So you had by all accounts, what we would call successful career and life. And
right.
And so the obvious question is, how did you deal with all of this? How did you break through all of this, the depression, the anxiety, the fears, the limiting beliefs, the negative self-talk, all of that? How did you start to dig your way out of that hole?
So, for a long time, I did not recognize that was all happening within me. I just thought that what I was
I know what it's like to struggle with weight loss, lack motivation, and feel lost with no purpose. I've been there. This was me, overweight, unmotivated, and battling low self-esteem. But I took back my life, and now I'm here to help you do the same. My book, Take Back Your Life, is your guide to breaking through these challenges. It's time to reclaim your health, motivation, and self-worth. Readers are saying, a life-changing guide helped me find my purpose and the boost I needed to transform. Start your journey today. Let's take back your life together.
Experiencing was normal, because that's what we saw on TV shows. That's what we heard other people talking about. So I just thought this was just, a normal way of living my life. And that was just something I was just going to have to continue to deal with. It really came to this huge moment of awareness where, all of the anxiety and the negative emotions and negative self-talk really built up within me. And obviously it needed to get out somehow. And it released itself during a staff meeting that I was having with one of the, teams that I was managing at the time. And I just, in the middle of our staff meeting, I just blew up. And I mean, it was so, non-characteristic of me, but I just, lost my crap on everybody. People left the meeting crying. There are people that left the meeting disgusted by my outburst. There are people that followed me to my office concerned because they were like, what's happening to you? This isn't like you. So that was really the pivotal moment for me where I was like, okay, what's going on internally with me is obviously not normal, and it's turning me into somebody that I don't like and I don't recognize. So that was really the kind of turning point for me where I started to embark on a self-awareness, self-discovery journey,
Okay.
and where I really had to go home, spend a few days and sit down and say, okay, what is going on? How did I get here? Where was I going from here? So yeah, that is really where, that moment just really caused me, forced me to embark on a self-discovery, self-awareness journey. And, unfortunately, it was unfortunate that that had to happen. But, it was really, a blessing in disguise because it's really what that first step that started me to, be the person that I am today.
Yeah. When was that turning point? A couple of years ago or 10 years ago?
Oh no, that was back in, I want to say 2015 or 2016. It was a long time ago.
8, 9 years ago. And so once you
Yeah.
had that episode, and yeah, ironically, that may have been the best thing that ever happened because it alerted you to, your next stage in life. And so what were
Right.
the steps you began to take to slowly dig your way out of this? Did you enroll with a therapist, a yoga class, or?
So yeah, I mean, prior to this happening, when I first got promoted into my first healthcare management position, I was struggling with that because, I went from being a sole contributor to then being, somebody who was responsible for other people and teams and the success of my department. So I really struggled with, learning how to kind of make that shift in mindset and approach and perspective and everything like that. So I went to, my boss and different people, different colleagues and mentors. And, they always told me, you have to read this book. You have to take this course. You
Yeah.
have to make sure that you know about this. And, I did all those things. I think I read like 200 books. I attended like 20 different courses and conferences, but all of that stuff just inundated me with way too much information. It just overwhelmed me even more. And I was just even more confused about how I was supposed to manage and lead people. And so I think that also kind of compounded what was happening internally as well. But when I had this pivotal moment and, really sat down and was like, okay, this is not who I want to be. This is not the direction I want to go. I really started to focus on, instead of professional development, I started to focus more on, self-development, personal development. And the first two things that came to my attention was mindset and creating empowering morning routines, which, really talked about taking control and being intentional. So those are the two things that, really started taking me in the right direction. And then that's why I've written two books on mindset. I have a course on creating your own empowering daily routines, because, those are very pivotal to me. And so I feel like they can be pivotal to other people. But that's how everything kind of started. And of course, as you develop and grow and progress, things just kind of start to happen.
So, what were some of the mindset shifts or what you learned about mindset then?
So, I mean, first off, I learned that I knew nothing about mindset, and it's different, definitely something that I wish that, we were taught in school, way back earlier, because I had no idea just how powerful our minds truly are, how we have the conscious and the subconscious mind, and how the subconscious mind is really kind of running things on autopilot, and we have no idea that it's going on. That's why we have the limiting beliefs and the negative self-talk. It's programmed in our subconscious, and we have no idea that it's happening. And so that was really the first thing for me, is really, okay, so this is what's going on in my mind. How can I start to shift those negative things into positive things, and really help to create a mind set to where my mind and I are in alignment, and we're really allies, instead of my mind working against me, being my biggest weapon and hindering me and keeping me stuck and stuff like that. So that was the hugest thing for me, is just recognizing that our minds are so much more powerful than we really realize, or really are taught to understand. And so that was huge for me. And so one of the things that I first started to do when I made that awareness is I started to, become present and start to pay attention to what was going through my mind. So I, got a notebook, and I was really diligent about starting to write things down when I started to notice them. When I was starting to say, really mean, bad things to myself, or when I got into stressful situations, what were my thought patterns during that time? So that was, how I started with that, is just creating that awareness and just being curious of, okay, what's going on in there?
I'm nodding my head because I 1000% relate to everything that you say. You mentioned something about the morning routine, so talk to us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so that one was kind of interesting how that one came into my life. So I stumbled upon a book about a journalist who was actually on this project of going around the world and interviewing the most successful people around the world to find out, what made them successful, what made them different from other people. And so he thought it very interesting that the 300 people that he had interviewed, they all had one commonality, and that was that they all mentioned that they have some sort of morning routine that really sets them up for success for their day, and then their week and their months, and basically their years. So he found that really interesting, and he actually wrote a book about it. And so I stumbled upon that book, and then I was like, wow, that's kind of crazy, because up to that point, especially being a healthcare manager, my day just kind of happened to me. I didn't wake up with any control or intention. It's just whatever came my way happened, and however it affected me, that's how it affected me. So I had no idea up to that point that I could actually have control of how my day went, how I felt during my day, how successful I was going to be during my day. And so that was really pivotal to me, as well as, kind of discovering that, wow, we can have this control and not let life really kind of happen to us, And so that was huge for me. And so I started working on creating my own, morning routine to set myself up for success. And of course, it's transformed and evolved over the years, but yeah, that was pivotal as well in understanding, kind of the internal stuff, and how we let external stuff affect us, and how we really do have control of, our emotions and our words, and our responses and things like that.
Yeah, and you mentioned, going through your day with no intention, life happening to you, versus going through the day with intention, life happening through you,
Right.
so to speak. Can you give us just a quick sneak peek overview? What does your morning routine look like now?
Yeah. So one of the first things that I do when I wake up, as soon as I open my eyes, is I start a gratitude practice. So I start just listing off everything that I am grateful for. That I woke up, that I had a great night's sleep, grateful for my husband and my parents and my siblings. a beautiful day that I get to experience and, learn and grow from. So, yeah, that's one of the first things that I do. I also do a few energy exercises about, releasing a negative energy and then kind of clearing that out. And then also doing an energy protection to where, protecting myself from any negative things that might come at me. Also, do some mindset stuff with journaling. And I also try and get some movement in. So, like stretching, yoga. Sometimes I'll do a small workout. I'm making sure I have a healthy breakfast. Really keeping in mind that what you put in is what you're going to get out. So if you put junk in your body, then that's what you're going to get out. But if fill it with really nutrient dense foods and stuff like that, drink lots of water, then you're going to be healthier for it. So just stuff like that. I can't think of everything that I do because it's really on autopilot now, but that's just
Yeah.
a tidbit of what I do.
We'll get to your books here in a moment, but let me ask you this. So you roughly started this part of your journey about 9, 10 years ago when you had that turning point at the staff meeting. All
Right.
this change did not happen overnight. Kind of, I like to say one brick at a time or one step at a time. A lot of people get on this journey and then 3 weeks later or 3 months later, they fall off and they never get back on. What's been the driving factor behind you that kept you going all these 10 years to stay on this journey, to stay committed to your personal development, to stay committed to your mindset, and then ultimately developing your morning routine? Because most people will quit and then never go back, but you're the opposite. You started and then you kept going. So what's been your driving factor behind that?
I think what's really important for people to recognize is kind of like what you said. It's not a one-time fix, and it's definitely not a sprint. It's a marathon. I like to say that when we're talking about self-improvement, and I say this about leadership too, is it's a journey. It is not a destination, and you're constantly learning, you're constantly evolving, you're constantly developing. You never really arrive. There's not this point in when you kind of reach and you're like, okay, I'm done, I've made it. It's
Yeah.
not like that. It's a constant
I
growing
learned that the hard way
process.
too. Yeah, it's not like that at all. You do keep going. It is a journey. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think one of the things that really helped me is kind of recognizing that we kind of are as humans, we constantly are meant to constantly be learning and growing and evolving. And I know that I've talked to several people about this. It's kind of like, after you graduate high school and if you decide to go to university and then you graduate from there, then you're kind of like, okay, I'm done learning. I don't need to know anything else. I know it all. But that's not how it is. That's why we grow and change and we, evolve. And like, I am not the same person even 2 years ago that I am today. It's a constant growth journey. I mean, one of the goals that I set for myself a long time ago, I want to say it was like 5 years ago, was that I aim every day to be a different person going to bed than I do when I wake up that morning. And so it's a constant, just, recognizing that we're constantly meant to grow and change. One of my mentors always says, being comfortable does not equal transformation. And if you're, constantly in your comfort zone, you're going to stagnate. You're going to get stuck because that's not what we're meant to do. We're constantly meant to be growing. And so what keeps me going is recognizing that, but then also taking time to really recognize and celebrate my small wins. It doesn't matter how small, how big, something like, oh, today, I was able to recognize that I have this limiting belief about, something. I mean, that's a huge win. And then just taking the time to recognize your small wins and then using that, having that help you keep you motivated and create that consistency so you continue to keep going. And then the other thing is, obviously you don't want to go back to how you were before, especially if you've made some progress and you're doing much better than you were before. So just kind of those three things, keeping those three things in mind has really helped me to continue to be on this journey. And I hope that, it'll help other people to do that as well.
So what would the you of today tell the you of you yesterday, or what would the you of today tell someone who is exactly where you were 9, 10 years ago?
So I would say to myself, or somebody who, is experiencing what I was 9, 10 years ago, is that one of the things that I've learned is that when we are kind of experiencing something like that, when we are in this negative place, when we aren't, living, feeling like we're living a good quality of life, or we're kind of wondering, is this really what life is? I've kind of learned that those are signals that we're trying to tell ourselves that we are out of alignment with who we truly are. So there's this, who we really truly are at our core, and then there's this person that society and expectations has kind of developed. We wearing this mask, and that's exactly what I was doing. I was wearing this mask and not really being in tune with who I really truly at my core am. And when there's that gap, that misalignment, that's when you start to, have these negative challenges and difficulties happening to you. And it's really you tapping into that and starting to recognize that. And okay, something's out of alignment. Like, another thing that I used to have is chronic migraines. I had them since I was a child. And it wasn't until a couple of years ago that I met a woman who helped me to recognize that, hey, you have chronic migraines because your body is trying to tell you something. Something's out of alignment. And when I came, saw my migraines from that perspective, I haven't had migraines in 2 years. And that's never happened to me in my life. I would always get them, several times a month. So again, just starting to tap into and be aware of and start to recognize when, kind of negative things are in your life or happening to you. What is somebody or something trying to tell you?
Wow. We could really go deep with a lot of what you just said, but we only have about 35. Well, we're starting to get towards the end, Angilie. So let me ask you this. I think everybody everywhere listening to this podcast and on this planet, I always say this, we all have one thing in common. We want to live a life that is happy, healthy, and inspired. So what is your definition, your interpretation of living a life that is happy, healthy, and inspired?
Yeah, I think I just touched on it just now, is really living authentically, being who you truly are. And, really when you start to tap into that, you will start to live the life that you are meant to, that you love, that you wake up really passionate about, and you're just loving life and doing what you're passionate about. And, I'm a believer, so I definitely believe that when we tap into who God really created, that we start to live the life that we're truly meant to live and start to live the purpose that He created us for. And so, that is my definition of living healthy, happy, and inspired.
Love it. I love it. And any final take home words, pieces of advice, anything else you haven't had a chance to say that you would like to say?
Yeah, a word that I would like people to keep in mind is curiosity. Just be curious about everything. Go back and turn into that 5 year old where you were always asking why. Start to be curious about things. Don't take things for at their face value and just accept things as people will say, well, that's just how it is. That's just how it's always been. Really challenge and ask, well, why? Why is that? Why do I feel this way? Why do I think like that? Why is this happening? So get curious, and that will create self-awareness and consciousness for you, and that will get you on your path to really self-improving and getting to a place to where you are in control, and really starting to live happy, healthy, and inspired.
I love it. Yeah. So, Angilie, you have books out, obviously. Tell us about your books, your websites. How can people reach out to you? You have any courses or seminars coming up?
Yeah, so I have two websites. So one is oversightglobal.com. That is my company website. And then I also have angiliekapoor.com. And that was more about me, and then some speaking offerings that I offer. So yeah, I do have 3 books out. So 2 of them, like I mentioned earlier, are on mindset. You can find them on Amazon, or if you go to my website, my books will also link to the Amazon page if you'd like to purchase them. And They both also come with, I created workbooks for them as well to really help people to dive into the exercises that I mentioned in the book. So I think that they're, wonderful bundles. The feedback that I've gotten from people who have gone through them, they say that it, has really helped them to recognize their mindset, what it is, and really start to make that shift. And so, yeah, my latest book is actually, I'm a co-author in a compilation book that is endorsed by Tony Robbins, and the foreword is by Brian Tracy. And so you can find that. Yeah, you can find the link to that on my website as well. It's actually being sold on a different platform. But I do have, like I mentioned, two courses, the one on creating a daily routine, and that one's called Rituals of Greatness. The link on that you can find on my website. That's the easiest one. And then I also have another one called Being Fearless, and that is about overcoming your inner critic. And so those are the two courses that I have out now. So yeah, I'm just, working on gearing up to launch season 2 of my show. And so you can expect that to come out in January. And I'm super excited. And you'll also get to hear Brad's episode when that comes out as well.
For what I said on your episode, now I'll have to go back and watch it. But for anyone listening, I should mention at this point, Angilie is someone that has gone from, I'll say, the corporate workforce, corporate lifestyle, to literally living your dream life. Angilie travels the world now, country to country, place to place. She's in Mexico right now today, but leading, speaking, teaching, a lot of it virtual now, the power of the internet. But this is Angilie, you're a shining example of what was and what is possible. When you go through this transformation of mindset shift, I call it beingness shift, a little bit different, but mindset shift, and then, setting that intention through your morning routine. Angilie, this has been awesome. I have another question for you I want to ask offline here in just a second. But it's been truly a pleasure having you on here. I'm so glad that we've connected and that we're exchanging all this good information. For anybody that is listening, thank you for being here. As always, I super appreciate if you feel you've gotten anything out of this episode, please share it far and wide. The more people that can undergo a transformation mindset shift and setting that morning routine, you will see that creating your dream life is very much possible. No matter, this is the fun part, no matter where you start, it doesn't matter where you start. You can still move forward from wherever you are is where you start. You can always move forward, create that dream life, transform the mindset. Angilie is a perfect example. I'm a perfect example. We've both dealt with that inner critic, those inner demons. I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy. You mentioned, Angilie, in the beginning, I'm a loser. That's a very powerful thing to call yourself. Anyone listening, when you say I am, anything you say after that, the universe goes, oh yeah, that's true. And then your inner critic, if you say I am beautiful, but you don't believe it, your inner critic, the subconscious that runs, just says, no, I'm a loser. So, but anyway, good stuff. So please share this episode far and wide if you feel you've gotten anything out of it. And if you wouldn't mind also leaving me a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, I would sure appreciate that also. Angilie, thank you so much again for being here. And everyone, take care. We'll see you next time. Live happy, healthy, and inspired.